Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is my everything in bloom on the 8th video, and I know that's not an orchid, before you start typing. It's a Streptocarpus, and I went out for lunch with my daughter yesterday. We decided to go to the huge garden centre that's not too far from where she lives, because they do orchids. Now sometimes they haven't got many, sometimes they've got just Phalaenopsis. Sometimes they've got, like yesterday, a hell of an assortment. They had some smashing plants there. There was nothing there I fancied on the orchid front. Well, I tell a lie actually. There is a new variety of Nellie that had they had a decent plant I would have just got. It was absolutely gorgeous, so I now have to keep my eye out for that one at Malvern. I didn't get it because they were all single bulb plants with no signs of new growth, and they were staked on one of those U-shaped stakes where they've bent the spike round in a sort of U heading back down towards itself, which I personally don't like. And quite honestly, most of those single bulb plants were held in place by that stake, so they were not good plants, but the blooms are gorgeous. If I come across a decent one, I'll get it. It's really nice. Seem to be a few new clones of Nellie around. I mean, I got that red velvet at the beginning of the year, which is a smashing bloom. Anyway, Streptocarpus. I know nothing about these, so any tips? Basically, the tag just says keep at normal room temperatures, keep moderately moist in good light but no sun. Well, at the moment it's sat on the dining room table with all the light it can get from the conservatory coming in through those big glass windows. I think that's sufficient light. If I stick it on a windowsill where I can see it, the only option is the kitchen, and that gets full sun through plain glass, so that's not on. And if I put it in the grow room, it'll get too hot. If it says normal room temperatures, it doesn't really want to be 27, 28, does it? So I think it'd be okay there. It's got some new leaves coming. It's got lots of new spikes coming at the base, but basically I had to do a deal on this, you know me. They had a few of these plants out on their display area that looked quite tatty. They were going over. But obviously they just had a delivery, you know, on a trolley on wheels, all still wrapped up in their, you know, large trays, not priced up or anything. So I managed to find somebody. It's no good going to the tills about those sort of things. You've got to find somebody on the floor. So I found somebody and I said, you've just had a new delivery of the Streptocarpus. I know they're not set up yet. They're not priced or anything like that. He said, well, they're going on sale at exactly the same price as the ones that are already out, and the barcode's already on them. So you can, if you want, you can get one and take it to the till. They won't know the difference. So that's what I did. They had some really big ones of this, but they were twice the price. And I thought I might enjoy growing this one on rather than buying the bigger one. It's got blooms, it's got plenty more flowers to come. Okay, so any tips would be appreciated. As we're doing everything in bloom, that doesn't count. That's the Catatanti spike that was starting to go over. I needed it off the plant, so I stuck it in some water. Okay, so that doesn't count. But anyway, somebody like Rachel, who's a plants person, not just orchids, might know a little tip or two about that. But the tag says give a high potash feed while in bloom. See, now there you go again. That's not really the right information. What they mean is give a low nitrogen feed. That's not the same thing. You know, my orchid fertilizer has got more potash in it than nitrogen. You know, it's 13 nitrogen, 15 potash. It's already a high potash feed. I don't want any more. What I need is one without the nitrogen. That encourages the blooms. Too much nitrogen, it'll just grow leaves. I know that. It's a plant. Doesn't matter what sort of plant. Anyway, I thought I'd start with that. The colour on that, I know some of these blooms are, you know, these are the older blooms, but where's a good one? That's a good one there. I just couldn't resist that colour. I hope that camera's picking it up nicely. It's the deepest, rich, velvety purple with veining that you could imagine. It is stunning. I couldn't resist the colour. And to have that now to look at for some time, I would say, given all the spikes coming. Yay! So I thought I'd start with that. Okay, this nobile's having a little flush. It did its main flush some time ago, but it's now having another little go. This is probably 95% certainty that it's Green Dreamer pollen. It was bought without a tag as just a standard, you know, nobile as they are, but I'm pretty certain. But yeah, it's having another little flush. They do that, you know, often. Nobiles will have their late winter, early spring flush, and then they'll have another little go every now and again. And that's what that one's doing. The one next to it's doing the same thing. I'm not so keen on the blooms on that. They are quite large for nobile blooms. Get my hand up in there. You know, they're a good size, but to me they're a bit plain. And even though you might think that one's plainer, I just like the balance of the colours. I like that greeny yellow centre. Now this one has tiny little pink tinges on the end in varying degrees. In its spring flush, those pink tips were quite prominent, whereas on this little flush they're very, very faint. In fact, some of the blooms haven't even got any. But anyway, that's the only two nobiles that have got. No, it's not. I tell a lie. Man speak with forked tongue. The Wedding Bells is still going. Now, these blooms I really do like. And it is strange how tastes are different. My daughter said, "Oh, I'm not so keen on that one." But I love it. I mean, this is still in full flood. I mean, it's a nobile hybrid. It's called Wedding Bells, or that's what was on the label when I got it. Now, I have seen another one for sale that's called Wedding Bell with no S on the end, and it's white, which makes more sense to me. You know, having something called Wedding Bells that's yellow seems a bit odd. But that's the tag that was on it when I got it. Now, I don't know what it is, but I've just got a whiff of perfume. And as far as I know, there's nothing in here much scented at the moment. I'll find it in a minute. There's something smells nice in here. I'll have to go and find it now. Anyway, so that's the three nobiles. And yes, that is the three nobiles. That is it now. I'll have to pick this one up. This is friedericksianum. Now, these blooms are starting to go. So obviously this one can't go to Malvern now. I'll check my records. This hasn't been in bloom a long time, but many of the deciduous long cane dendrobiums, as I call them, the blooms don't last a huge amount of time. They normally make up for it when they do decide to bloom in sheer weight of numbers. But that's a palish yellow, but again, the deeper gold in the lip does have a green element to it. So I like these blooms a lot. As I say, I've had a couple of blooms on this a few years ago. This is the first time it's had a reasonable go. And hopefully that's going to do really well next year. The blooms, in theory, are going to be on the canes that are already mature. Whoops, I'm whacking me bulbophyllum around now. So that'll be that large cane and these three down here. That's highly likely my prediction of where next year's blooms will be. And by then, those canes will probably have lost most of their leaves. And then the year after's blooms are going to be those new growths at the top, which hopefully are going to get as big as that this year. But I have lost a little bit of my growing season, which if you've been following recent escapades, you'll know why. Okay, now there's someone at the door. I'll be back. Okay, moving on. This Wildcat Cheetah, first bloom actually opened on that exactly a month ago today. So I mean that's a month's worth of blooms so far. And at the moment I see no signs of those blooms going over. I wish I could find what is scented. There's something under my nose. I'll find it in a minute. I'll get to it. Everything as I go round is getting a sniff now till I find it, because it's I didn't think, apart from the Miltoniopsis, I didn't think there was anything around that was scented. Anyway, that's Wildcat Cheetah. This Phalaenopsis Green Apple, this has been out for ages. I thought the spike might extend, but I'm not sure it will now. It has lost some blooms, but I mean there's still 6 on there, so you know the spike's still looking good. They are pretty little flowers, aren't they? I love those. I'm not into Phalaenopsis as such, but I like to have some around. You know, they are still orchids at the end of the day, and some of them have spectacular blooms on. I just find the big strappy leaves a bit of a pain. But I mean, that's a mounted one there. Just to show you the plant, this one was coming off its mount. It was getting so heavy, it was pulling itself off. So as you can see, I've wired it on. And since I wired it on, the roots are starting to push out in various places. And some of those will now attach and, well, basically it'll get a better grip on life, won't it? Simple as that. But yeah, I mean, it's got more than enough roots to hydrate the plant. Some of the older dead roots, which in a pot could cause a problem, but on a mount they just don't. They'll just die back, they'll rot, they'll fall off. They're no big deal because there's so much air around the roots. A rotten root, apart from if it gets an infection, just doesn't cause a problem. Yeah, so Phalaenopsis Green Apple, still going strong. I don't know whether it's green apples or green apple, but one of those two. What else have we got then? We've got the Prosthecheas doing well. That's Green Hornet, very popular hybrid. I wonder if that's what's scented. Let's get the flipping thing down and... it's that. Yay! I'd forgotten that was scented. That's what it is, it's wafting. There's no fans on apart from the little computer fans at the moment, so the air is relatively still. But yeah, I mean, these are just attractive blooms. You know, their shape, the unusualness of them, and the deep purple with the veining in the upside down lip. It looks like a hood, yeah, rather than a lip. But a lot of the Prosthecheas are upside down. That's part of their traits. Not all of them, but a fair few are that way up. Hercoglossum is on its last legs. That has been in bloom a hell of a long time, but it was a succession of blooms. You know, rather than individual blooms lasting a long time, which they don't, it's a succession. It's had an initial flush followed on by lots of little buds. But that's about the last decent spike to open. There's another little one up there. I don't see any more buds, so that is coming to the end of its time now. But yeah, a few late arrivals. You know, these are on their way out, but it's still going. That's had a very extended blooming season this year. If I remember last year, it had an odd little spike that sort of came out, you know, during the summer and later into the summer, but whether it'll do that again or not, I don't know. I have to deal with that one because the new growths are not pushing on very well, and I think it's had its day on that mount. It's got to come off, tease out all the old moss, get it on a bigger mount, and the aerial roots that I've got need to go in something. They're not hydrating as well as the ones that are in the moss, so it obviously has a preference just by looking at the plant, basically. This is my only Tolumnia left in bloom now. That's Tolumnia Peach. This has been in bloom about a month, something like that, which is not bad. Tolumnia blooms don't last ages. But again, it's doing another little branch. Now, that'll probably only have 1 or 2 buds on it if it doesn't blast, because it looks a bit weak. But that may extend its blooming, so that's good. The Odontoglossum naevium is, I don't think these are long-lived, and all 3 spikes are open now. But, you know, this is a totally different Oncidium-type bloom. I'm not absolutely certain, but when they moved Odontoglossum as a genus into Oncidium, I do believe that some, I don't know why, got left behind. So the genus Odontoglossum is not gone, but I don't think there's many left in it. Most of them were just moved to Oncidium, and some of them had to have new names because when they arrived at the Oncidium genus there was already one with the same name, so they had to invent a new one. Gets dafter by the minute. But anyway, that's this is one of my favourite blooms. It's spidery by nature. You know, it's almost as though it's got a bit of brassica in there, but it hasn't. It is a thoroughbred. It's Odontoglossum through and through, but a species, not a hybrid. I would imagine that may have contributed to even some of the intergenerics, just looking at the patterning on the leaves. Yeah, okay, so that's that one. What else have we got in this area? We've got the Miltonia Sunset. I've moved this down here because I wanted to move that up there. I know that sounds daft, but that brings this in with the yellow area, he says, panning around quickly. And in addition to that, down here it's cooler. There's a reason for that. I want to slow its growth. Yeah, so it's slightly lower light and cooler. And the reason being, I want that spike okay to go to Malvern, so I'm trying to just hold it back a bit. Doesn't always work, but it's worth a try. And this Phalaenopsis is still going well, and I'm not sure those spikes are going to extend anymore. You know, but you know, they're lasting incredibly well. They're the sort of thick, waxy type Phalaenopsis blooms. I've forgotten what its flipping name is now. I'll have to have a dig, won't I? Come out. It is Phalaenopsis zenminbrontosaurus. That's easy for you to say. That's that one. While I'm down on my hands and knees, get back in there, will you? Oh, they don't poke through roots very well, tags, do they? That's got it. Right, so I'm going to have to dig now. I don't think I can count that, can I? That bloom's gone. Nope, we'll put that to one side. Digging in behind here, the Restrepia blooms come and go. So it's highly likely that most of them that are flowering size are going to be in bloom in every blooming video. But that's antennifera, I think that one's called, and it's my favourite because of the deep gold and bright red striping, which this camera will not pick up unless I set the tripod up and freeze everything. But yeah, very pretty little blooms. I think it's got 2 or 3 out at the moment. Yeah, there's another one back there. There's one over there as well. So it's got a few, they just come and go. That's how the Restrepias are. I'm not sure any of the other Restrepias have got any blooms on at the moment. They're flipping great. See what I mean about big strappy Phalaenopsis? Wherever it is, it's in the flipping way. And yeah, it was so in the way, it was hiding that one. And that one's, oh, how the hell do I say that? Houlisse, work it out. But that's just got a single bloom on. The other 2 large Restrepias are not in bloom at the moment, but that one's got one. Whoops. There's nothing else down there, he says, scanning frantically. Yep, nothing else down there. The little Dendrobium rhodostictum, bloom, singular, is still out. And quite honestly, I think it's going to be out a long time. That's showing no signs of fading. And obviously my Latourias are new to me. I didn't expect that one to bloom, I must admit, but it has, and its new growth is starting to get the shape. You know, the bulbous bit near the top, like this one, that's the new growth on it, and it's starting to form the bulbous bit. So that'll be the next cane to bloom. I'm not sure whether Latourias are actually seasonal as such, so that could bloom in, you know, in sometime not too far away. But I really love, I know it's only a single blossom, but for me it's special. First Latouria to bloom, and the purple on the edge of that lip is just gorgeous. I'm not sure the camera's going to be picking up the best colours today, because I'm in an extremely low light condition. We have a miserable dull day with wind and it showers every now and again. This one is definitely its last filming. But that was in bloom when I got it at the end of March. We're now heading off into June, so that's done very, very well. I'm looking forward to it doing it again one day. has got a new growth pushing on now. Will get repotted soon. Can't remember all the names off the top of my head. Pop-ups will appear accordingly. The Shelob Tolkien bloom is still in full swing. I think these blooms are just starting to go. The tips of the petals and sepals are showing signs. It does have 2 more spikes coming on behind. I'd love those 2 spikes to be okay for Malvern. You know, that's a feature orchid. You know, people who don't know too much about orchids at a show look at orchids like that and, you know, marvel at them just because of their shape and their colours, patterning. So that's good. While I'm standing on tippy toe here, do the 2 Vandas. Very pleased with this one this time round. It's got a purple flush over the petals and sepals that it hasn't had before. It had a purple lip, very, very tiny tinge, and the white. And the tessellations last time round were very faint. Well, they're not faint this time. They're really well outlined. That is absolutely gorgeous this time round. I'm over the moon with that. So obviously that's what it should be like. The last time it bloomed for me last year, it was a weak spike. It must have been because that's a strong spike. And it's got another spike coming on behind it, about 2 inches long, but I'm not getting the plant down. The other Vanda that's out, this is the one my daughter got me. It's probably Orange Delight, but was bought without a tag. It bloomed 3 times last year with 2 pairs of 2 spikes, so it had 5 spikes last year. I'm hoping to get something similar this year, but yeah, that's opening well. Lots more buds to go. That'll go to Malvern, as will that. They'll still be fully in bloom. Right, I don't think there's anything else lurking over here apart from the Miltoniopsis, which is been in quite a few videos anyway. Blooms last reasonably well. They are subtly fragrant. It's a strange smell. My description of a Miltoniopsis smell is roses with a hint of soap. that's just the only way I can describe it. It's nice, and then there's an edge to it which you think, well, I could do without that bit. So as soon as you smell it, it's nice, but then as you smell it for a little bit longer, it's not quite so nice, but it's still good. Still good. Right, what is them? Oh God! Now my phone's going. It's going to be one of them days. Right. Any more interruptions? The tenuifolia, Maxillaria tenuifolia, both of the plants, the one in the pot and this mounted one, I can't get it down, there's too much in the way at the moment, but we can see the blooms from here. They've been out since about the 20 something of April. So these blooms are lasting well. Certainly on previous bloomings, I don't remember them lasting that long. But both the potted plant and the mount, the first bloom opened on both of them on exactly the same day. Well, I noticed them on the same day, let's put it that way. It might not be an exact science. I'm going to sneak that one in. That's not my plant, actually, that's my daughter's. I mean, that's just a no ID Dendrobium Phalaenopsis type. Pretty white blooms. The only sign of colour on that really is on the bulbous part at the back where there's a tinge of purple. But yeah, that spike's open, the other one's just opening over there. Not my plant though, so cheating a bit really. That really is it. The blooms have just gone on that one, but you can see there's another one coming. That's an on and off bloomer. Another one coming there, but that's not actually out yet. And we'll end on the bulbophyllum then, because that's it as far as the blooms are concerned. Elizabethan Buckleberry is a very popular hybrid. I think it's partly its colour, and probably it's one of the easier ones to bloom. It's quite a tolerant plant. You know, if you're going to start with bulbophyllums, this isn't a bad one to start with. It's relatively easy to get hold of, and they're nice looking plants. You know, they've got nice shaped leaves, you know. It's not a bad looking plant. 2 blooms on that at the moment. And I haven't got a clue how long they're going to last, but I'll know when this one goes over. That's just how it is, isn't it? You can't tell how long a bloom lasts until it's gone. That's the way it is. Okay, that's the everything in bloom video for today. I've got lots of buds and spikes and things, but I'll do them as a separate entity, basically. If you want to work out what's come into this video that wasn't there last time, and you want to see what was in bloom last time that isn't in bloom now, you'll have to go and watch the previous video. It's quite a lot of effort for me to do all that when the video's sat there, and the one before that, if you want to sort of follow the sequence. Be interesting to see perhaps what is in bloom through all 3 of these types of videos that I've done, if anything. Okay, so that's it for this one. I've got repotting to do. Some are getting up to a priority status where I really need to get on with them. I may do some today, I may do some tomorrow. I've got 2 what I call dead days now, where I haven't got anything else to do apart from orchidy stuff. So those are the sort of days where I get on with the repotting and stuff like that, you know. So leave it for that for this one. Hope you've enjoyed the blooms. There's a lot of yellow about at the moment, isn't there? I've got a whole yellow corner here. I quite like doing that. That's the setting up at the show's influence on me, where you try and colour code, you know. Can't do it always, but yeah. So see you again next time. Thanks for dropping by.